This week on Sailing Gargoyle, we've got a special treat for you. We are gonna take a tour of a yacht. No, not that yacht. Come with me. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
This yacht, Gargoyle, a Beneteau Oceanis 50 in our home for the last 5 years in 9 countries. Come aboard. Welcome aboard Gargoyle, our 2011 Beneteau Oceanis 50. She's been our home for the last 5 years and 15,000 nautical miles. I thought it was time to give you a tour. Today's tour, we're going to break into 4 pieces. First, we're going to take a look at the cockpit, which is the command center while we're sailing and the entertainment center when we're at dock or at anchor. Second, we're going to take a look at the deck and all of our rigging. Third, we're going to take a look at the interior, which is our living space. And then finally, we want to hit what we think are the components that make this the perfect blue water cruiser for us. So our cockpit has 2 helm stations. Taking a look first over to starboard, which is the primary. That's where our engine controls are, as well as our bow thruster controls. Then from an instrumentation standpoint, we also have an I-70 display from Raymarine, as well as our primary autopilot controller. When we come over to the port side, now we have just an autopilot controller, which we just installed, which is a duplicate, so that if we do lose one of the 2 heads, we have redundancy on the boat. In the center, you see our Axiom 12, which is our chart plotter. The chart plotter is on a pivoting pod, which allows us to pivot it to either port or starboard, depending upon which helm station we're using at the time in the tack, or have it centered. Coming forward, you'll see the 2 cabin top winches that we have here. These are Harkin 46s, they're electric. Back for our primaries, we have Harkin 60s, again, both electric as well. All of our running rigging is led aft. You'll see them through the blocks on either side of the companionway, so we can do everything we need to do primarily from the safety of the cockpit. Another blue water feature is when we're at sea, things get rough. We have handholds very nicely placed, so we're able to move about the cockpit. We also can then tether to these handholds. We'll use this one, and then we have multiple pad eyes located throughout the cockpit as well as around the boat. One other nice feature in the cockpit is that the footwells are indented. So they're on a slope, so that when we're heeling going upwind, makes it very easy to find a position where you can stand as you position your feet on that tack. Let me walk you through the deck layout and some of the features that we think make the Oceanis 50 the perfect offshore cruising boat. So when we look up front, we have attachment points for 3 different sails. First of all, you can see we have our Genoa on a furler. Up front of that, on the bowsprit, is an attachment point for our asymmetrical, and then we also have a 3rd attachment point, which currently isn't rigged, which is our inner forestay bracket. The inner forestay is actually over here on the side. We have it pulled away to give us better clearance up on the deck while we're in the marina or at anchor, but it's quickly rigged up front, and we'll usually hank on a staysail or a storm jib, depending upon the weather forecast. We also have up front a very large sail locker that contains both all of our extra sails as well as access to our chain locker and our filters for our water maker. In addition to a furling Genoa up front, we also have a furling mainsail in our Selden mast. One key component to sailing for Gargoyle is the addition of our whisker pole. Our whisker pole is from 4-spar, and it's 100% carbon fiber mounted in a track to our mast. We selected carbon fiber rather than either a full aluminum or a 50-50 aluminum carbon because of the much lighter weight, and that would enable either of us to be up on the foredeck and maneuvering that pole around. So let's talk about one big issue of debate amongst sailboat owners: teak decks. It's a love-hate relationship. We have full teak decks up top. We know it's a maintenance cost, and can be a long-term issue. We absolutely love the look and feel of the teak under our feet, but we do understand that an all fiberglass deck would also be a great option. We'll leave that up to you to decide. With all of this deck space, we also have numerous hatches and skylights that allow natural light to flood the cabin and really lighten things up down below. Our main sheet attachment point is on top of our arch, so it gets the main sheet out of the cockpit, makes the cockpit clean and open to work with, and also still allows us good control of our main sheet. As we walk to the stern of the boat, you'll see one of the most important additions that's been made to Gargoyle. We have a stainless steel arch across the stern of the boat. This gives us an attachment point for many things that are essential. One, all of our antennas. Two, our solar panels. And then third, and we'll show you here in a second, we also have dinghy davits that are integrated into that setup. This angle gives you a better view of how our arch is integrated into our stern pulpit. That gives us very good security the way this is mounted and allows multiple mount points, as you've seen. One key element is our integrated dinghy davits. We can lower and raise those davits using a power winch. Easy to do with the dinghy. Also, you'll see we have a 15 horse outboard, relatively heavy. We also use the davits to raise and lower that. Finally, the power source for Gargoyle when her engine is not running is our 1500 watts of solar. Now you'll notice that they are translucent, so you can see through those. These are LG neon bifacial panels. They're rated at 390 watts primary from up on top, but then they can also add an additional 30% power from reflected sunlight, either coming off our bimini or coming off the water as well. We've seen power in excess of 1400 watts. We think these are a fantastic solution. On the back of Gargoyle, we have our sugar scoop, which is where our swim ladder is mounted and then folds down for easy access. We have our mounting plate for our Watton C hydro generator. And then finally, we have a large locker across the transom. This allows us to store our 6-person Viking life raft, and it's easily accessed whether Gargoyle is upright or, please no, upside down. Let's take a look at the main cabin and the interior of Gargoyle. So this is a 2-cabin layout. We actually have 2 master cabins, one up front and then one in the stern, both of which have their own en-suites with showers. Let's take a look at the main cabin. You can see that on the port side, we have our dining area with a big wraparound settee, as well as stools that can be brought out if we have more people aboard. This table does lower down. If you take the legs out, there are shorter legs, so you can drop this and put a filler cushion in for another berth if needed. Also, storage under all of the cushions that you see here. So ample storage, as well as storage above all of these settees as well. Our galley is set to port and back. Very nice layout, especially when you're sailing offshore. Lots of places to rest a hip when you're on heel, places that you can hold on to, and then of course all of the fiddles along the counter made out of solid wood as well. Standard 3-burner gas range with oven for refrigeration and freezer space. We have a top opening freezer for all of our deep freeze storage, and we also have a refrigerator with a freezer on the top. Ample storage in the galley. You'll notice that there are quite a few cabinets here for our large pots and pans, storage for all of our food items, as well as a little pantry space on this side, more storage around on the end as well. Our nav station is to starboard. It gives you good access to the electrical panel, all of our breakers with the AC breakers on the left, DC breakers on the right, and then up above, additional access to the electrical panel and circuits as well. Then of course we have all of our readouts as displays. So this is where we can check our fuel levels, check our battery charge, as well as check water levels. Additional sensors for the battery charger and inverter, as well as the charge that we're getting on the battery banks and the house bank. VHF radio, and finally our Iridium Go. Up top and above it, you'll see that we have a stereo unit, but most importantly is our Spectra Water Maker remote control. So we have a Spectra Water Maker. The primary workings of it are mounted underneath the forward bunk. You already saw where we have the filters mounted in the sail locker up front. This is where we control everything from right here. And one of the selling features for me was this. How cool is that? We were on deck. I mentioned all of the hatches and skylights we have for additional light inside. You'll see how bright it is here in the boat. We have ocean air blinds that are also reversible as screens in the top hatches. Works great for blocking out the direct sun, and we can always pop them open as the sun goes down so we have a better view. So the furry gang and I are in the forward cabin, which many owners would actually use as their own cabin. Underneath this bunk is the water maker, so the Clark pump, the primary components of the water maker, as well as our 150-gallon water tank. Then they've also sandwiched in a drawer for more storage underneath the bunk. The forward cabin has its own private head, lots of room inside. Check it out.
Look how big and spacious this shower is.
And of course we also have our full-sized vanity and our power heads. This is one of our favorites. When we talk about the aft cabin, which we'll show you in a second, we also have the aft head. This head has two doors, one for private access from the aft cabin and then another for use as a day head. This head, just like the other, is fully equipped. There's a full stand-up shower, as well as our second electric head and ample storage space as well. So let's take a look now at the aft cabin, which is the master suite for us. Come on in and take a look. Our bed is a queen-sized berth crossed laterally, which is a different type of a layout than you usually will see. We really like it because it allows us on either tack to sleep comfortably in this bunk. Simply flip the pillows up to this end, depending on the tack we're on. Very comfortable back here. We get a lot of airflow through the hatches around the cockpit, and it gives us a ton of storage space as well. We have wet lockers, hanging lockers on both sides, numerous little cuddies that we can put things in. Really makes it for a nice setup. Of course, we have the requisite cruising guitar back in the corner stored. And I think we're bothering Sam and Dean. I think they retired to this cabin to take a nap. Our engine is well positioned underneath the companionway stairs. We have access to it from all four sides. Let me show you while we're back here in this cabin. So we have this access panel that's easily removed. Sam, have you checked the oil recently? Also access underneath this sink. And then finally, the main access underneath our companionway stairs. Gargoyle has the upgraded 110 horsepower Yanmar turbo diesel. It allows us to cruise at about 7 to 8 knots when we're under power, which is nice when you need to get through passes and you're fighting currents. In addition, while we don't have a generator and we do rely on hydropower as well as solar, when needed, we have a secondary alternator, a Balmer, that's mounted to the engine. So we get extra charge out of that Balmer and we can quickly charge our house bank when needed. It's the end of another beautiful day here in Costa Rica. The sun is starting to go down, so it's time to turn this command center cockpit into an entertainment center and open a bottle of wine. But before we go, we wanted to run over the items that we feel made Gargoyle the perfect blue water cruiser for us in the form of upgrades and additions.
First thing that comes to mind for me is our 12-volt water maker. We can use it when we're running solar during the day, and it can produce up to 20 gallons per hour to make sure that water will not be an issue no matter where we are in the world.
And really goes hand in hand with that, our solar panels and the arch that supports them. That arch has been a godsend for us in that it allows us to mount antennas. We never have an issue when we add some new communications devices, and then also handles our dinghy davit as well.
And while we're talking about power, we also have a Watt&C hydro generator. So on those days when we're making crossings and the sun isn't quite powerful enough, we use the momentum of the boat to make sure that we have extra power generation through our passages.
I think one that I just can't neglect to add in is that we did add in the whisker pole. for easy downwind sailing with our Genoa. It's nice because we don't have to hassle with just the two of us short-handed on the boat, with our spinnaker or with our asymmetrical gennaker as well, which gets a little bit trickier depending upon conditions.
I think the last thing that we probably need to add, and something that you need to think about when you are making blue water passages, is redundancy through your boat to make sure that if any major system does fail, you do have a backup. So additional autopilot heads, additional autopilots, and pretty much any other kind of spare part that you might think that you need are definitely a must when you're making these longer passages.
The old rule of thumb is if you have a spare part on board, the primary is not going to fail. So it's a good insurance policy.
It'll never fail.
Yes. So thanks for joining us for the tour of our home. If you like what you see, please give us a thumbs up down below. Click on the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and then the bell if you'd like to be notified of our next episode. Until then, ciao for now.